You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 152.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
I'm really excited to be here with you today because one of the things that I love about being somebody who is constantly evolving as a human and somebody who feels very proud of the fact that I do the work that I talk about every week in this podcast. So, this week, I want to share a personal story with you and one that might resonate with you. If you've ever worked really hard for something and felt crushed when the results didn't match your expectations. And I'm guessing if you listen to this podcast, that might resonate well with you because if you are like me and you wanted so badly to become a mom and that did not happen for you, it's common to feel like you are doing something wrong. But let me tell you how this showed up for me most recently. Just a few days ago, I had my 8-week follow up visit with my surgeon after my knee surgery. And while I'm telling you this story, I invite you to listen for parallels, maybe that come up for you in your own experiences, especially if you've ever felt disappointed about an outcome despite your best efforts. If you've listened to this podcast for a while or you follow me on social media, you know that I had surgery to repair my patella, which shattered into multiple pieces after a random fall on a beautiful Saturday date night. 3 days after the surgery, I started physical therapy and I started out twice a week. And I still remember that first session. Getting out of the car was such a hard thing to do. And I remember Jack having to literally with kid gloves pick my foot up and put it on the concrete just to like get me out of the car. And it just was excruciating. But session after session, I continued to show up. I followed the protocols that my surgeon had given the physical therapist. I pushed through all the pain that I was feeling, also diligently doing exercises at home and doing everything that I was told to do at home. And my goal was clear. I was wanting to be as active as I was before the fall. Just the morning that I fell, I remember I had gone to a solid core class and I had totally killed it in salad core. And the surgeon had me come back for my post op visit. And when he came in the room, he looked at everything and looked at my x rays. And he told me while my fracture was healing well, he was really concerned about my range of motion and that it wasn't where it should be. So at this point, able to flex about 60 degrees. And he was expecting me to be able to flex to 90 degrees. And I have to tell you, I was like crushed. And I felt like I've been doing everything I was told to do. And I felt like despite my best efforts, I wasn't doing enough. They were going to put me on a steroid to help reduce the swelling around my knee, hopefully allow for more movement. But whatever it is that happens, I am just really trying to remind myself that I am showing up and doing everything that I'm asked to do. I'm motivated to get back to where I once was. And I wanted to talk about this today because as I was driving home, it hit me that, the reason that this was so hard for me to hear that this disappointment in his voice, I felt like it was so similar to my experience with going through IVF. And I want to talk about some of those parallels and how you might remember that feeling of pouring your heart and soul into following your protocol and doing everything that your fertility doctors told you, only to be devastated when a cycle got canceled because you didn't have enough embryos to make sense to do a retrieval. Or maybe you did have a retrieval and the quality of your embryos were poor and nothing lived past day 5. You probably blamed yourself. And I'm saying this because I know I did, wondering if there was something more that you could have done, if you had been 5 minutes too late for an injection. And I felt like that my recent doctor's visit, those moments really had me feeling defeated and questioning my efforts. But I just want to be clear that blaming yourself is not going to change the outcome, and I reminded myself of that. You did, if you want to parallel this to fertility treatments, like You can't change anything that you did. And as long as you blame yourself for being the reason things didn't happen in the way that you wanted it to, it just deepens the hurt. But so many of us carry this habit of self blame into other areas of our lives. So I just want to pause for a moment and I want you to think of a time in your life, and maybe it's IVF, maybe it's something else that you're wanting to recall, something that you worked tirelessly for only to feel like you fell short. Maybe it's in your career, maybe it's in a relationship or a friendship. But what did you tell yourself in those moments? Did you show yourself compassion or did you focus on what you believed you did wrong? And where else is this showing up in your life? Are there areas where you're still holding on to shame or guilt for outcomes that were out of your control? And I really want you to take a moment to reflect on how these patterns might be affecting how you see yourself today. This is exactly the kind of work that I do in the Thrive After Infertility Mastermind. And I'd love to share some stories of women that I've seen create transformation after working through these issues with me. I'm thinking of one client, Jen, who came to me feeling so consumed by guilt because she felt like she had failed not just herself, but her partner and her in laws for not becoming a mom. Through our work together, she started to see how much she had invested in her dream of motherhood and how that effort was worth honoring, not shaming. We still keep in touch. And she tells me that she has begun to wake up with such a sense of peace, that she's starting to rediscover what can bring her joy. Sometimes it's traveling and going on sporadic weekend road trips with her husband. Sometimes it's writing and building deep and meaningful friendships. And then my other client, Julie, who told me when we first started working together, I remember like being able to resonate with this so deeply that she has spent so much time feeling irrelevant in her circle of friends, all of whom had children, and she always felt like she was an outsider. And she was chasing milestones that she was hearing them talk about, but she felt like she could never reach them and reach milestones of her own. So when we worked together in Thrive After Infertility, we worked on what her milestones might be like, things that felt meaningful and fulfilling to her. We exchanged holiday cards, and she told me that she is now pursuing this passion of photography. She had taken photography in high school and in college, and she just had her first gallery showing. I mean, is that amazing? Her friends were there, all the friends with kids were there cheering her on, not because she's trying to keep up with them and parallel her life with theirs, but because she's living a life that feels true to her. So I want you to think about whether you can imagine what it would feel like to wake up every day proud of who you are, even without the children that you dreamed of, even without being able to say everything that you've tried has worked out in the way that you thought it would. And when you stop measuring your worth by outcomes that you can't control, you can start focusing on a life that you want to create and not one where you're always feeling like you're sold short. And it's most likely like you've been stuck in this cycle of blaming yourself for things that haven't worked out for you. And I want to tell you, girl, it is time to stop. Okay, think about it. Shaming yourself, does it ever make you feel more motivated or capable? Does it keep you feeling stuck? Does it keep you feeling inadequate and deflated? Probably. What would it look like to treat yourself with the same compassion you would show a friend who called you and wanted your support through a hard time? How would your life change if you focused on celebrating the things that you are doing and your efforts instead of criticizing yourself all the time? Does shaming ever make you feel more motivated or capable? Like when you talk to yourself like an asshole, how does it feel? You think that you're going to be like, oh my God, you're so lazy, get your ass out of bed, go work out, like all these things where we have been taught by other generations in our families that tough love is the way to make you figure out how to do something or to how to show up being the person that you are. But it doesn't. It keeps you feeling stuck and it keeps you feeling inadequate and probably deflated. When it comes to you, you're so hard on yourself. How would your life changed if you allowed yourself to focus on celebrating you instead of criticizing your outcomes? Here's what I want you to know, okay? You do not have to carry this weight of disappointment and self-blame forever. It's not just like something that you can't shake. It's not who you are. So many of us live this life where we're like, oh, that's just how I am, or I just can't help myself. I call it BS. There is a better way that can allow you to honor your efforts, and it'll allow you to recognize your worth and move forward in your life with confidence instead of always telling yourself that you're cut short on something. And it's not about like toxic positivity where you just have to like put this pretending face on that everything's fine. It's about learning to navigate hurdles that are always going to be coming your way. There is no way to ever live a hurdle free life. Okay. Let me tell you, as far along as I am in this process of creating a life I love without the children that I always dreamed of, there is always going to be hurdles. And it's about you creating a future that feels meaningful to you, even if it looks different than what you once imagined. And I know that this is true because not only have I lived this, my clients experience this. So it's not just me coming on like blowing the smoke. It's really this truth that you can learn to stop talking to yourself like the enemy, and you can start showing up for yourself like a friend. And you can define what fulfillment looks like and create a life that you're genuinely proud of. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What if the way you talk to yourself is the key to creating the life that you want? What if you could feel proud of who you are, not because life turned out perfectly and not because you've been able to figure everything out, but because you chose to show up for yourself in this different way? If this resonates with you, book a Thrive call. I talk about this every damn week. And if you're listening and you have not booked your Thrive call yet, what's stopping you? I can help you in 45 minutes. It's free, like no strings attached, no pressure to do anything, but to show up so I can help you create a plan to move forward and start building this life that you are so deserving of. You've worked so hard already. You have put so much work into your life, and now is the time to work on something new, to create a future where you are feeling fulfilled and proud of who you are. So I hope that you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just want to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called The Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.